We're kicking off today with Halloween Havoc, and while it was Andre Chase who challenged former Chase U member Ridge Holland to an ambulance match, it was Chase who ended up in the vehicle. Chase and Holland had a back and forth match, with Chase starting off hot with a rolling cannonball from the apron to the outside. The men battled up the ramp towards the ambulance, with Chase attempting to get Holland in first, but Ridge avoided and got the stretcher out of the ambulance. He attempted to shut Chase inside, but Chase fought back and blasted his foe with a fire extinguisher, and the pair didn't even get back in the ring until the middle portion of the bout. In the ring, Holland took over, and the pair battled with kendo sticks before Ridge again exited the ring to pull the mats back, exposing the concrete underneath. Holland would end up being slammed into the concrete, and when Chase cleared the announce table, Holland attempted to capitalize and got Chase up. Chase was able to hit a DDT to Holland before the pair battled back up the ramp with the stretcher in tow, and Chase got to the top of the ambulance where he hit another cannonball on Ridge. Chase attempted to get Holland in the ambulance, but Holland fought hard to get out of it, and he hit a slingshot to Chase into the ambulance door and took control. Holland hit the Redeemer DDT to Chase to get him into the ambulance and closed the door for the win, as yet another Chase U member has come up short against Ridge Holland. In the main event of the show, Trick Williams was able to retain the NXT Championship in the Devil's Playground match against his bitter rival, Ethan Page. Page jumped the champion to start the match and set the tone for the brutal affair, and Page further tried to humiliate Trick by smashing a pumpkin on his head. Williams reversed it and planted him with the pumpkin, which he promptly kicked off his head, but the challenger regained control thanks to a steel chair. Page's attack using nuts and bolts backfired as Williams hit a neckbreaker to send them both into the metal mess, and the pair continued to battle at ringside. Page crushed Williams' midsection with the steel steps before obliterating him with an ego's edge through the table, and a clearly hurt Trick had to battle through his injuries. A low blow from Page forced the champion to respond with one of his own before landing an incredible trick shot to retain his title in the best match of the night by a solid margin. Unlike other plunder matches for the night, this had a strong wrestling focus built around the hatred of the pair, and spots were better placed, selling Trick's resilience through Page's brutality. This was the ceiling for Trick versus Page as a rivalry, as while the two never had great chemistry, they did the most they could in this environment to deliver a solid main event. After the match, Ridge Holland hit the scene to launch an attack on Williams, and a beatdown by Holland and Page was interrupted by WWE Hall of Famer Bubba Ray Dudley. Bubba hit the scene and laid out the heels with haymakers to clear them from the ring, and this was a follow-up from what happened during the Halloween Havoc pre-show. There, Ridge interrupted Bubba and his busted open radio co-host Dave LaGrecia, leaving both men annoyed to say the least. He then returned prior to the main event, at which point Dudley had enough and warned Ridge after that incident and the pre-show not to do this a third time. Holland had no words in response but stared Dudley down before leaving the set, teasing what was to come later in the night after the NXT Championship match. After his ambulance match victory over Andre Chase seemingly put Ridge's issues with Chase U in the rearview mirror, it makes sense to wonder what's next for the former brawling brute. With a couple of spicy interactions with Bubba and NXT heading to the ECW arena in a little over a week, it wouldn't be unreasonable to envision a match between the two. Over to TNA, and at Bound for Glory 2024, Mike Bailey defeated El Hijo del Vikingo to retain the X Division title in a match praised by fans as both men delivered impressive performances. Sadly, things didn't go as planned for the taping of TNA's October 31st episode of Impact, which was filmed on October 27th and saw Vikingo take on Trent Seven. The pair had a technical bout which also saw Vikingo showcase his signature rope walk into a backflip, but the match was abruptly halted when the refs signaled for medical assistance. Tommy Dreamer and several others rushed to help Vikingo, and the situation appeared to be legitimate rather than part of the show, and the popular star had to be stretchered out. The severity of Vikingo's injury is still unknown, and with this being a developing story, we'll have to wait and see how serious this situation is, as more details are expected to come out soon. Keep checking back with us at Slat Rock Wrestling for updates on this story and the latest in the world of wrestling. And we're hoping for the best, as Vikingo has a ton of potential, and an injury setback is the last thing he needs. Sadly, Vikingo wasn't the only wrestler at the taping to suffer an injury, as Chris Bay of ABC suffered what appeared to be a serious injury in the closing moments of a tag team match. In the match, the new TNA World Tag Team Champions the Hardys defeated Bay and Ace Austin, but the match took a turn during the finish when Bay went down hard. Bay fell after what appeared to be a mistimed spot, and immediately recognizing the gravity of the situation, medical personnel rushed into the ring to attend to Bay. The Hardys got the pinfall win, and Bay was carefully placed in a neck collar, indicating that this is a potential neck or spinal injury, and he was stretchered out of the arena to stunned silence. As of now, the severity of Bay's injury remains unknown, and the quick response from medical staff and the neck collar have raised concerns about his status. On CM Punk's Instagram story, the WWE superstar said he was thinking about Bay and sending positive thoughts, and Punk was spotted at TNA events last year prior to his WWE comeback. TNA has not yet provided an official update on Bay's condition, leaving fans anxious as Bay has been a key figure in the tag division alongside Austin, and any absence would be a significant loss for TNA. With Bay's status in question, the future of ABC as a team remains uncertain, and fans are awaiting updates, hoping for the best as Bay undergoes further medical evaluation. A long-running mystery was solved at Halloween Havoc 2024 with the dramatic reappearance of Tatum Paxley, who wasted no time in demanding a match with her nemesis. Just before the NXT title match between Ethan Page and Trick Williams, Vic Joseph and Booker T previewed the Devil's Playground match and the weapons and props that would be involved. As Booker T stood in a cemetery-themed setup when a nearby road case suddenly burst open, revealing Paxley, who has been missing for weeks. Her absence began when Wendy Chu seemingly abducted her, shoving her in the same road case and wheeling her away during a previous episode of NXT. GM Ava rushed to the scene and tried to escort Paxley to the medical team, but Paxley stormed to the entrance ramp and demanded a match with Chu to settle the score. Paxley spun the Halloween Havoc wheel, which landed on a casket match, and she was thrilled at the chance to face Chu in one of WWE's spookiest stipulations. It's also interesting that a casket match is set, as we previously reported that The Undertaker will be at the Performance Center this week, and an NXT appearance is a possibility. It was the Phenom who introduced the match in WWE back at Survivor Series 1992, and an appearance would certainly be fitting, as the match is set to make its return after 2 years. What do you think of Tatum Paxley's return? Will she finally get a revenge on Wendy Chu? Share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. In a showdown that's been teased ever since their respective debuts, Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer took on NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. This match saw 4 talented women bust out some solid moves, including Vaquer using a 619 in a nod to Rey Mysterio, though Vic Joseph called it a spin kick. After a back-and-forth battle, Giulia escaped a Doomsday device before planting Roxanne Perez with a superplex, followed by Vaquer's spinal tap for the win. This was a good match that should have been great, and the early feeling out process came off as clunkier than expected, with the heels never getting a serious run to build heat for the faces. Still, the talent shined down the closing stretch as the match took on a significantly faster pace, but the lack of stakes was felt in this match, the second of the night. Without a stipulation on this stipulation-laden card, this match came across as a glorified TV match, and beyond the finish, the Fatal Influence match on NXT was a better showcase of all involved. The right team certainly won, and La Primera needed the win to look like she belonged, as for as good as she is, she's struggled to stand out due to a lack of a strong spotlight. Hopefully this win will change all that, though with that said, WWE didn't wait long before moving on from Vaquer and focusing on another new signing after the match. Post-match, Zaria was shown in the audience staring down at everyone, and it's hard not to feel that Vaquer has quickly fallen down to 3rd place behind Zaria and Giulia. It remains to be seen who will be next in line for a shot at Perez's NXT Women's title, but there's certainly no shortage of potential challengers to the prodigy. Kelani Jordan was set to defend her North American Women's title against a member of the Fatal Influence faction at NXT Halloween Havoc, but those plans saw a major change. Ahead of the show, Ava had a conversation with Jordan and the faction, and it was brought up that the Fatal Influence member would get to pick the stipulation. That's because the wheel had landed on Spinner's choice, and in a cunning move, Fallon Henley declared that Jordan would put the title on the line in a gauntlet match. This means she'd have to face all 3 members, though it didn't take long for Jordan to retain her gold against Jasmine Nix. Then it was JC Jane's shot, and she had a much longer bout with the Women's North American Champion, but Jordan got the clean win over her. The odds were against Jordan, but she was able to hold her own against 2/3 of Fatal Influence, which just left the champion's last challenger, former partner Fallon Henley. Jordan ate a cheap shot with a rolling encore elbow as Henley ran down to take her on, and fans chanted, "This is awesome," as the two went at it. Kelani sold the moves like she was exhausted from her 2 previous matches, but was able to stay on top of things and pushed her adrenaline to the max to take it to the fresher Fallon. Henley was waiting to catch Jordan with a slip-up, and she plowed her face into the mat to take control, but the champ rallied back and appeared poised to hit a split-legged moonsault. That was until Jasmine Nix distracted her, and when she got to the top rope again, she was distracted by JC Jane just long enough for Fallon Henley to get her knees up on the dive. Henley followed up with a big knee to Jordan for the win and the title, and after the match, Fatal Influence celebrated their Women's North American title victory in the ring. Henley cut a promo before the lights went off and Zaria suddenly appeared in the ring, and she hit a headbutt on Jane and clothesline on Nix before spearing the new champion. Sending a message, Zaria followed up with a brutal F5, and it was then announced that the Australian star will make her in-ring debut this coming Tuesday on NXT. Her opponent wasn't revealed, but fans should expect it to be one of the members of Fatal Influence based on what happened tonight at Halloween Havoc. Serious credit goes to Jordan, who was given a tough test at the PLE, and she delivered and completed a great first title reign, with Henley being the right woman to dethrone her. Fans shouldn't be surprised if Henley's reign is cut short by Zaria, who between this and her other appearance on the show is certainly poised to be a breakout name in the women's division. We've got some awful news to share now as Sebastian Kidder, the stepson of 16-time world champion Ric Flair, has died after taking his own life at the age of 24. TMZ were first to report on this matter, and Sebastian was the son of Wendy Barlow, so had been with Flair from 2018 until earlier this year. On Twitter, Flair spoke of losing his own son Reed at roughly the same age Sebastian was, and encouraged Wendy and Sebastian's father Paul not to blame themselves like he did after Reed. Rick added that he's thankful for the time he had with Sebastian and his family, and spoke about Wendy being with him as he was dying, referencing his hospitalization in 2017. This is a truly tragic moment as Kidder's music career had begun taking off before his passing, and we would like to extend our condolences to all those affected at this time. At NXT Halloween Havoc, Femi was confident and cocky in his destruction of Tony D'Angelo in tables, ladders, and scares until the family arrived to help. The ruler was unable to deal with the numbers game and fell after a spinebuster from the Don through a table in a match that didn't exactly live up to expectations. After promising a TLC match, D'Angelo and Femi delivered a street fight with more chairs and tables than ladders, and the pair's past chemistry was not present this time around. Instead, this contest was a bit too focused on hitting the spots rather than telling the story, and the strongest story element was the weakest in-ring action after the family arrived. The pacing crawled to a halt and made the ending about everyone but the Don himself, but at least the right man won and Femi's credibility was kept intact with the messy finish. The actual pinfall was certainly controversial, as D'Angelo pinned Femi after putting him through a table, and because of the table, one of Femi's shoulders was far above the mat. Femi's shoulder was pressed down, but the interpretation of this pinfall could be the subject for debate, though with this being the likely blow-off match, WWE are unlikely to address it. The ruler should start his ascent to the NXT Championship scene, as his time in the mid-card and time with the North American title are well and truly over. Since Samantha Irvin shared news of her WWE exit, a lot has been said, and one of the most surprising revelations came when Irvin said she doesn't like ring announcing. She explained that announcing was supposed to be her way in, and she saw herself becoming a manager or GM one day, but WWE didn't see her as anything besides an announcer. This caused a backlash among fans, with some declaring that Irvin was taking shots at WWE and that she never even liked wrestling, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In an update, Irvin said that she loves wrestling and doesn't take what WWE did for granted, but she's not an announcer, but sees herself as an actress who is playing the announcer role. Explaining her previous comment, Irvin found it necessary because of the wave of hate that's been aimed at herself and her husband by fans who expected her to go announce elsewhere. Irvin made clear that she's a stage performer and enjoyed performing the role of an announcer until she recognized that this wasn't a character who would progress to a bigger role. Instead, Irvin's role as an announcer was all WWE wanted her to be, and after realizing that, Irvin opted to walk away from the job after pouring her love for wrestling into the role. Irvin has had to face a lot of hateful comments since leaving WWE, and recently an outraged fan on Twitter said she was a gold digger and was with Ricochet for his money. The fan argued that now that she's with Ricochet, she felt she could leave a company she didn't want to work for, ignoring the fact that Irvin has spoken positively about her WWE tenure. Irvin responded to the fan, pointing out that she was with Ricochet long before he even became a millionaire, and went on to further explain her previous comments about WWE. She explained that she felt the need to make those remarks because people constantly criticize her fiancé, hope for their breakup, and suggest that he's not man enough for her. She emphasized how much he cares for her, supports her, and is successful in his own right, and that he understands this despite what some so-called fans online may want to be the case. Irvin humorously added that she's even planning to have him take her to see Whoopi Goldberg as Miss Hannigan and Annie in NYC for her birthday, in what'll be a fun night for the pair. Samantha added that it was Ricochet who first encouraged her to leave WWE if she wasn't enjoying what she's doing, and he reportedly told her, "Honey, I'm a millionaire. You don't have to go to work anywhere if it's not what you love." Irvin happily accepted and now has the freedom to explore other roles in the world of entertainment, but said she'll miss having the best seat in the house and watching her colleagues perform. Are you surprised Samantha Irvin has to deal with such accusations following her WWE departure? Sound off in the comments section below. During NXT Halloween Havoc, General Manager Ava shared that she was still working on the card for NXT at the 2300 Arena, but had a very special match to announce. Lola Vice and Jada Parker will battle in a hardcore match in the famed ECW Arena, but they will also have a special referee with ECW ties. ECW alum Dawn Marie will be on hand to referee the match, and just the mention of Dawn got a pop from the Hershey crowd at Halloween Havoc. This will be a big return to the ECW Arena for Dawn Marie, and we'll have to see how things pan out for her in the 2300 Arena on November 6th. What's your take on Dawn Marie making her return to the ECW Arena? Please share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. More from Halloween Havoc, where Lexis King was interviewed backstage. He spoke about the rejections he's faced since arriving in NXT and how much that hurts. The second-generation star spoke of how much of a shadow his father Brian Pillman left him and said he's yet to step out of that shadow and needs someone in his corner to help him. Suddenly, William Regal appeared on the screen, and he offered his services as he spoke of being close to the loose cannon and wants to help Lexis King out. This was gladly accepted by Lexis King, so it appears that we have a new pairing on NXT, which will be Regal's biggest role on TV since his AEW exit and subsequent return to WWE. King had been needing a cornerman for his upcoming Heritage Cup match on this upcoming week's edition of NXT, about that'll see him face Charlie Dempsey, who is Regal's real-life son. Regal had an interesting line stating that there will be time to thank me, as could Regal being King's cornerman see Lexis do something in return for the British Legend's services? Are you excited to see William Regal back on WWE television? Please share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. At Bound for Glory, JBL delivered a clothesline to Joe Hendry, costing the Scottish star his title match main event with TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth. On Twitter, JBL was coy when explaining his actions, but called himself the keeper and guardian of pro wrestling, and we'll have to see if he has more to say after this shocking attack. And we're ending with Ricky Starks, who has been missing from AEW TV for months, and while questions remain about his status, the former tag team champion was recently back in the ring. Starks made an appearance at a Glory Pro Wrestling event this past weekend and called out a member of the roster for a match on November 24th, as the Absolute One plans to remain active in the ring, even if it's not in AEW.